bother with empty shelves at retail stores, waiting 3 days for a break to fill, or driving across town to find out your hobby shop closed at 4 when you always have a card show in your pocket. With Loop, you can instantly buy cards, packs, boxes, or into auctions with the click of a button, and do it all while chatting with some of the best personalities and the best community in the hobby. Download the Loop app now on iOS or Android. Loop, a card show in your pocket.
Hello, Marlins fans, and welcome to Fish Stripes Live, presented by Loop. And before we go into all the topics and what we have to discuss, we want to apologize for that delay, as a certain youngest member of Fish Stripes decided to end the broadcast just a little early right after the ad. So we want to apologize about that. DLC isn't the only Marlins member that's going to be optioned. We still have to discuss, but
I'm so sorry.
Fish Stripes Live, presented by Loop. As you can see, usual guests, as always, Isaac Azout, Eli Sussman, Kevin Barral. And then we have two new guests, First Place Fish and Jeremiah Gagger, host of Marlins 9. Guys, tonight is Marlins' first game versus the San Diego Padres after coming off just a horrendous outing versus the Arizona Diamondbacks. So I want to discuss that with you. Just what did you see from the Diamondback series, and how deep in trouble are the Marlins now, coming off just a horrible string of losses?
Before we talk about that, is Noah a curse to the Marlins? Because when covering, he is now 0-3.
Is that right, or is it 0-4?
I think it's like 0-5.
Jeez.
He put Isaac under 500. Now Daniel has a loss. He gave me a loss. We love you, Noah, but you're a curse. But anyways.
So the Marlins, 4 straight losses.
Yeah, bad series overall. I mean, the pitching just couldn't get it going for some reason, man. Pablo got banged up big time. Trevor just couldn't get it going for some reason, and then Eliezer Hernandez is not good at baseball. But besides that, offense got it going towards the end, but they could not get that final run ever in all 3 of the games. Anthony Bender blew another save. Just not a good series. But shout out to John Birdie, got 2 home runs, having himself a good series. Jesus Aguilar got a home run, although it only went out in 22 ballparks. One of them was in Miami. So, some positives, but a lot of negatives on that series, especially with the pitching and some of the decision-making itself with Donnie. And yeah, not a good series. Hopefully we could bounce back against the Padres, which some of their guys are not playing the best, and some of them are absolutely mashing out there.
A very uniquely frustrating series. I looked it up, and there just are not many examples of a time where you get swept and every single game you lose by exactly 1 run. I had to go back, I think, 8 years to like 2014. The last time this happens to the Marlins, it's very unusual to be this close, and especially in that last game, that's when they were the closest. You said, Kevin, they couldn't get that final run, and it seemed like they did get that final run yesterday on Wednesday, and then Bender he blew it, and it was really every facet of the team kind of malfunctioned at some point. The first 2 games was the offense that couldn't do anything at all against D-backs starting pitchers, and then throughout all 3 games, the Marlins starting pitchers were not good, and then in the final game was the Marlins bullpen that screwed up, and I think in between then you could find faults with a lot of other things in between. So just an all-around frustrating series, but ultimately, when you talk about the team moving forward, there are worse things than losing by 1 run every single game. Like if you were worried about the quality of this team and like the sustainability of like sticking around kind of in the periphery of the playoff race, it'd be worse if they got blown out by the D-backs at home 3 straight games. So I think there's still a lot of reason to be somewhat hopeful that they're going to bounce back.
And arguments could be made that they played better in that series against Arizona than they did in the series that they swept in Washington. It was just a uniquely frustrating series, like Eli said. And the thing that's frightening is that, it comes to no surprise that when you're 1, 2, 3, 4 guys all struggle, all of them uniquely struggled in their own way, for their standards, they're not going to win many ball games. It's not a team that depends on their offense. It's a team that, will rely on Sandy, will rely on Pablo to pitch well and deep into games, and they didn't do that. So it's really no surprise that they came up just short in all three.
And I think it's a little bit unfair to expect for Pablo and Sandy to go out there every single outing and dominate. Like, they're going to have slip-ups. Pablo's going to go out and have a rough outing. He wasn't going to have a 0.4 ERA all season long. But my big takeaway from the D-backs series was it's time for Eliezer Hernandez to get out of the starting rotation.
And Mickey Roba.
Like, Max Meyer, it's time. He's got to be called up, I think, as soon as possible. I don't know what else he has to prove, because if you look at the numbers, and I was looking at Eliezer Hernandez over the last 3 years, I don't see anything he's done at all except for the COVID year of 2020 when, there was a lot of, transactions going on where he had a solid year, but last year he couldn't stay healthy, and when he pitched, he was ineffective, and this year he's ineffective. I think it's time for him to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think this team is really streaky, and I agree on Max Meyer. It's time to, if they're serious about, or at least the reports we saw, right, that this isn't going to be like a wait and see approach kind of year, call up the young guys and have some fun. And they're not just young, they're great, it looks like. So, and then just I said from the beginning, I think this rotation is elite. They're not going to give you, quality start at each and every single time, but it's almost a damn sure bet, at least 4 to 5, but once these guys get going on offense, really, we got Avi and Jorge or Soler struggling at the same time. We're going to be a team. I think we're going to put a lot of winning streaks together and a lot of losing streaks together, because unfortunately the one facet of this team that I don't see being streaky really is the bullpen. So when we're going to be in games, into the 6th, 7th inning, we're kind of going with a hope and pray approach. So I guess we'll see. Hopefully we stay in it until the All-Star race at least, and then get ourselves a fun trade deadline, maybe a little more eventful than we thought with the offseason. So I'm hopeful, though. I think we'll still be around 500. So after that, maybe we'll get a Ugi Urbina.
I want to talk a little bit about the closer situation. Anthony Bender has not been as advertised at all. I'm just reading some of his stats. ERA, a whip on 39. He has 6 saves, but he also has 2 blown saves. I don't think it's what the Marlins want to have as their closer. They've had closer problems for a while now. Just how do you see Anthony Bender in this role? Is it time for him to go up a little bit in the bullpen? Are there any trade targets at all, anyone in free agency that you guys might have your eye on that Marlins could particularly get? If it's someone in the system, how would you handle this closer situation that the Marlins currently have?
You know what the Marlins could do? They could put Cole Sulser at the closer. That is something that they should have done the second Bender blew that first save. That guy is nasty. That guy is really, really good. Just the last 2 games against Arizona, coming in the 8th inning, pretty sure he shut out the side yesterday in the afternoon game. And the 8th inning comes in again in the second game of the series and just dominates the side. They need to put Cole Sulser there. I think Bender is perfectly set as a setup man. I think that's where you should be putting him. Maybe 7th or 8th inning guy. Cole Sulser needs to be your closer. He proved that he could do it in a very hitter-friendly ballpark in Baltimore, Camden Yards. He could definitely do it in Miami. I think Sulser should be the closer for this team. Besides that, Flores on his way back. Maybe we'll see him soon. Who knows? But I want Sulser. That's who should be there. They've tried Scott. Did not work out after his good first save. You should go Sulser and give him a try, because I don't even think he's been given a chance to save the game yet. So, which is just surprising to me, because I think most of us expected him to at least get some save opportunities before a Tanner Scott.
Yeah, well, I agree with you kind of about Sulser. That was a pretty charitable position to take on Bender, that he's perfectly poised for the setup job. He's not perfectly poised for any major league job right now.
But that's where he should go.
He's been, for the better part of a year now, since the middle of last year. He's just been very, what's the word that the kids use? Very mid in there. He's just not. He's had his issues, and we've covered that on past streams. We've been through it, that his stuff just not moved the same without sticky stuff. He tried. We talked about this a lot on the Spaces, yesterday with Alex, who's not here, about how we saw him try to add that changeup for this year, understanding that his slider was not going to be quite what it was at this time a year ago, and the changeup just hasn't reached the level for him to use it consistently, for him to use it against righties and lefties. So he's at a point where he's just not missing bats the way that he used to. He gets hit hard. Sometimes it's home runs. Sometimes it's just really sharp ground balls. And sometimes he gets lucky that the fielders are in the right spots to make the plays on those ground balls. And if not, he's just really ineffective at this point. So you mentioned Floro, who best case scenario, maybe by the D-back series, he's ready to rejoin the team, and you need to make a corresponding move at that point. And we'll talk about whether maybe they just send back down Tommy Nance, who just came up prior to this game.
That's probably why they did that.
Yeah, but honestly, Bender has been about as unreliable as anybody in this bullpen to this point in the season, and that's saying a lot.
Well, I mean, Sean Armstrong was worse, but
yes, but he's not even in the
he's
equation.
no longer on the team, so yeah.
Right.
Salsa kind of reminds me a little bit of Brandon Kinsler.
I was about to say.
Remember that?
I was gonna say when you said that we hadn't had a closer in a while, like what they would give to have 2020 Brandon Kinsler back in there.
Yeah, he's got
Adam from Hungary.
That's got to be the last time they've had a somewhat reliable guy pitching the ninth.
Whoa, from
Didn't he
Hungary?
lead?
That's pretty cool.
Didn't he lead the NL in saves, I believe, Brandon Kinsler, that year?
He was one of the top leaders in the in saves. Yeah, he was really good that season. I mean,
all I know is he rolled the biggest double play in Miami Marlins history.
That was pretty cool.
It was pretty great. I was talking a little bit about the bullpen my last episode of Marlins 9, and I agree with Kevin. Like, I think Cole Sulser needs a shot at least. Like, put him in there. You don't really have anything to lose, because the inconsistency right now from the bullpen, it's getting to an all-time low. You know, you just don't know if they're going to hold on to a lead at this point. I have no faith in Bender as a closer, and I think that if Miami can hold it down for the next 2-3 months until the trade deadline, till trade season, then I think if they're in the thick of it, it is absolutely imperative you have to go out and get a closer. Like, you have to get one of the top line guys, because, they just don't have it right now. When Floro comes back, maybe he still has the stuff he did last year, but after injury, there's just a lot of uncertainty right now.
Yeah, for people who haven't been following Floro closely, he's made 3 rehab appearances. He was supposed to pitch tonight, but they got rained out. So I think that's pushed back until tomorrow on Friday, when hopefully that's his last appearance. But his velo has been way down. For a guy that averaged 94 in the majors last year, he's been averaging 90, 91 during his rehab appearances. I don't like that as a closer. I don't like that. So it's a very big appearance for him this weekend. He might need 2 more appearances, honestly, over the weekend at AAA. Again, best case scenario, he comes back during the D-back series. Even when he does, I don't think they would plug him in to closer right away, just based on how he's looking on this rehab assignment. It's probably they either stick with Bender, or they go to a committee, or they give it to Sulser. And for the time being, it's probably going to be more of a committee situation, a matchup situation, because they don't like to use the word committee. But
there's no one in the farm that you guys can see as a potential closer. Maybe not now, but maybe in the years to come. Is there anybody that really catches your eye that can really be that standout closer for Miami that they desperately need?
Well, they're not on the farm, but I think someone that, like it or not, we've come to this point where someone who we might see maybe as soon as tonight is Stephen O'Kurt. Might get some save opportunities. He's just been flat out dominant. He's getting swings and misses. I know he doesn't have the stuff that Bender has, but honestly, besides Bender, there is no one that has that stuff. Floro, Sulser, said Scott, and Scott, already failed once at the save situation. So I think the next guy in line would be, if the matchup permits, it'd be Stephen O'Kurt. And to answer your question, Daniel, on the farm, Tommy Evil has been closing for a long time. He's another, as Eli said, mid prospect. He could probably get some big league outs. And I don't know if a big league closer, but he can definitely get some big league outs. Another guy that I know Alex Carver likes as well is Colton Hawk. I think he's got some nice stuff as well. But other than that, you're not really you're not drowning in closing options in AAA or AA for sure. Max Meyer would be Perfect. Hopefully he'll be making a start maybe as soon as Monday.
What about a certain polarizing prospect by the name of Sixto
Beat
Sanchez?
me to it. Let's just wait for him to throw off a mound, and then
We have to wait a bit. Yeah.
let's wait.
I was going to say, 2026, he could be our guy.
Yeah,
In the back of the bullpen.
I still
think
want to
he'll
see him
vicious.
as a starter. I still
Yeah.
have faith in him as a starter, but he's
I
got
hope
the stuff,
so.
that's for sure.
Isaac, are you still on the? Do you still think about Eliezer as a closer? I think you mentioned that once, right? Or you're over that.
Kev,
I would just stick him. I know Eli was against. I would just stick him somewhere in the bullpen. The slider is just too good to not be able to get some guys out. I don't think he's better than Cody Poteet, but
No.
I would have him in there. I wouldn't waste him in AAA. I would have him somewhere in the major league.
I would say he can go through a lineup more than twice.
Right.
I think he could get you 3 outs pretty quickly. I mean, if
Right.
he could do that as a closer role, I think it could work. I know it's only 2 pitches, but that should be more than enough to get a save.
I
Honestly,
think he and Poteet could form like a formidable, mop-up guy. If they have 2 games in a row, I think both of them could combine to just eat some shitty
fair.
innings.
Poteet has been pretty great this season. Would you guys say he's the best bullpen pitcher that they currently have? The best bullpen arm?
Great
But
spring.
but it's kind of that long man role.
Yeah.
It would be he's
Oker
not
has been the best one.
he just
think
does not
it's
have
Oker.
any experience in high leverage situations and also even pitching on back-to-back days. Like it would take weeks to actually develop him into even a conventional reliever. He's good in the role that he's in now as their long man, as their emergency starter if something happens really suddenly. And I think he's better than Eliezer, just flat out better. He's actually a little bit older than Eliezer is too, which might surprise people, even though he has way less experience in the majors.
Well,
He's
you know
ready.
who's one name?
Yeah, because Eliezer was Rule 5, and he jumped up immediately before Poteet.
Yeah.
So,
There's
Would you
one
see
name
him as
that
a-
nobody's
would you
mentioned.
like to see him as a starter? Poteet back in the starting rotation if he keeps it going, or not at this point?
Not at this point.
Fair enough.
Not with all the guys we have on deck, I don't think.
Yeah,
What did you have for Jeremiah? You mentioned that that's someone that
Yeah, I was gonna say Anthony Bass has been actually statistically one of the best relievers, and I think that's hilarious because
You're not
he's the
wrong.
most frustrating
Yeah.
to watch.
Yeah.
Who he's starting to remind me of Braden Looper a little bit. I don't know if you guys, he's just, he's got he throws hard. He's got a good curve, but if he's off, it's batting practice. But if he's on, then like you said, he's one of our best guys right now.
Now he's been great anyway. You slice it, you just know that his history in the 9th inning last year. Whenever they tried it at a few different points, I don't think people remember that it wasn't just the start of the year. There were other times during the year where they tried to get him back into that role, and it just blew up on him every time for whatever reason. That obstacle that he either mentally or just as the ball would have it, how the ball bounces, it just doesn't work the same way for him. He's pitching the 9th inning, but he's been great. He's going to be a pretty vital piece for them this year, which might surprise people based on what we thought coming into the year. But he has been, any way you slice it, very valuable to the team.
I think the next player that we need to talk about is everyone's favorite player, the $53 million man, Avi Garcia. Let's prepare everybody and get some stats from this. The Marlins paid $53 million for a player who is currently hitting 175, slugging 250, an on-base percentage of 205, OPS of 455, 1 home run, 4 RBIs.
Five.
Best part. This is the best part. 28 strikeouts to 1 walk.
Shit, that was pretty bad.
I'm going to leave it there. Thoughts on Avi Garcia? What is going wrong?
So I think he's a prime example of someone who really, really got hurt with that shortened spring training. He is someone who historically has struggled in April. So you combine that along with a 3-week spring training, and he did hit that home run in his first at bat, I believe, in spring. And after that, he could not touch the ball with a tennis racket. So he definitely needed some more ABs in Roger Dean, and I'm not totally shocked that he's off to this slow start, but I think I think it's reaching the point where I think even Kim Ng and everyone in company is pretty worried that this is a monstrosity of a start. We have now 28-1 strikeout to walk ratio. 28-1. That is in the 1 percentile of walk rate. That is in the 4th percentile of strikeout rate. That is just not good. So they're gonna have to get some more offense out of him and Jorge Soler.
That is in the 1% of base percentage or walk percentage.
Thank you, Kevin. I know.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised you knew that by memory, unless you're looking
That's
it up.
why I don't need to print out my stats. It's all up here, Baba. It's all up here.
And I applaud you for that. But I mean, juiced balls, could that be something that's hurting him? The balls now, just something like that. I don't know, but I mean, this guy's been bad. Like, this is bad. I mean, I don't think anyone expected him to be this bad. He's worse than Lewis Brinson's whole tenure as a Marlin, I would assume at this point. I mean, like,
That's saying a lot.
Yeah.
I hope he gets it going, man. I really hope he gets it going because Jorge Alfaro is batting better than this guy right now. Just keep that in mind. But anyways,
Well, like what?
like,
what
I
does
hope
Don
he,
do?
I really hope he gets it going because this guy, if we get 2021, Avi Garcia, I think we're in a good spot where he hit almost 30 home runs. I mean, I will take that any day of the week. So hopefully he gets it going soon. And I think Isaac's right. Shortened spring training definitely hurt him. It hurt Jorge Soler, who we'll probably get into. Maybe even Miggy Rowe, who's just not been good at all. But I have my mixed thoughts on him. And hopefully he gets it going, man, because Alvin Garcia is a pretty good player.
And I think this is also part of the reason that we, during the offseason and even during the lockout, when we were discussing, before the lockout this happened, where we were discussing potential outfield options, Avi Garcia was never the top tier of guys that, us Fish Stripes people or any Marlins fan really had at the top of their list. He was playing a bandbox in Milwaukee, facing not a very tough division in the NL Central. So it was very surprising to me that they were so willing to give him 4 years with an option for a fifth one. So it was very strange at the time. It's strange now. So, he said when he hits it hard. It's just a question of hitting it consistently. Max exit velocity, no one does it better. But
I think
it does not happen often.
I think with Avi Garcia, when we first, as you mentioned, we were looking at options, he was definitely one that we were looking at when it comes to the second tier of players.
Right.
As Eli would say, the mid tier, I guess we could call it now. He was the top guy. And at the time, it was good. It was a good signing. From the immediate look at it, from the get-go, I was like, too many years. Just too many years. 4 years is too much. The guy is getting up there in age soon enough. And how old is he right now? 31? 30? He'll be 34 by the end of his contract. And if he opts into that last year, he'll be 35.
31 in June.
Yeah, so he's going to be up there in age, and now we have to play 4 years with this guy. And if that's what he gives us, throughout a whole season, we're in for a bad 4 years with Avi Garcia, and I hope he gets it going. That's why I hope he gets it going. Because you're paying him $23 million AAV, if I'm correct. That's what it is.
No.
Or 21. 21?
No.
No, it's a 4-year, $53 million deal. It's a little over 13 a year on average. It's
Okay.
a $12 million salary each year, and then there's a few million on the very back end as part of his 5th-year club option.
I don't know where I saw 20.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why I didn't freak out when they signed the deal, because on an annual basis, it doesn't kill you any 1 year. Just a really long-term deal for a guy that they were pretty confident was a solid above average regular right now. And it looks like they were wrong about that. He will definitely be better. I think it goes without saying that he's going to be better than he's been so far. When you see somebody start off like this, it's not reasonable to worry about these being his final rate stats the entire year. I can assure you that. The problem is all of a sudden you worry about the upside and what he's going to do over the course of the year. I think at this point, it's fair to worry enough about his really awful swing decisions that he's just not going to be sustainably good for any long chunk of the year. That it's looking like it's going to be a bad value for the contract overall, no matter what. It's that difficult balancing act about knowing when he's going to flip it around, how much to play him in the meantime. And based on today's roster move, they kind of made the decision pretty clear that they are going to continue for the near term, playing him every single day to give him a chance to snap out of this. And time will tell whether or not that's the right call or not. And it's people should be nervous about it for sure, because there's they play a whole lot of games for no off days for the next whole week. And based on the way that the team is configured, it sounds like Avi is going to be in the lineup for 7 straight games that they need to It's a really tough time. It's bad. There's no sugarcoating it. It's really a disturbing start to his Marlins tenure.
It's really bad. Really,
Jeremiah, first place Fish. What are your guys' thoughts on Avi Garcia, and how do you guys see him so far this season?
Well,
he's been
underwhelming. So, yeah, I do the politically correct response. I don't know his history with slumps or anything like that. I would say more so than Soler, his swing and his mechanics, if we're getting technical, I think will allow him to get out of slumps quicker than Soler, who really goes all out on every swing and historically swings at sliders outside like Stanton, maybe just a little less than Stanton. But I think Avi, like Eli was saying, it's his swing decisions. I think some of his slump is really between the ears because he's making contact. He has a really nice hard hit percentage at 69 percentile, and I think he's going to get out of the slump eventually. But I think he's going to end up being streaky. I think Soler is going to be real. I know we're not on him right now, but I don't know. Yeah, underwhelming so far for sure. And also, I didn't really want to see him play center field, but I'm surprised that we haven't seen him play there at all, given that we have a revolving door. But Sanchez has been really nice out there. Honestly, he's been pretty good. That's my take.
With Avi, it's just like when I saw that DLC was sent down, exactly what Eli said. Now Avi's got to play every single day, and I really thought that with Don Mattingly, he should give Avi a little more rest, because obviously you can't take him out for a long stretch or send him down back to the minors, but you can give him a little more, a few more off days, maybe this next week and the week after, and see if that can jumpstart him, get him more in the cage. I don't really know. It seems whenever he's at to bat, he cannot hit a breaking ball. He can't catch up to fastballs in the zone. He's just not seeing the baseball well, and he's going to have to play through it because DLC sent down, and that's one fewer outfielder that the Marlins have. And I really didn't like that decision at all.
Well,
I love De La Cruz.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about the DLC move, the series preview versus the San Diego Padres, and a little bit about Max Meyer. Catch you off to this break.
Why bother with empty shelves at retail stores, waiting 3 days for a break to fill, or driving across town to find out your hobby shop closed at 4 when you always have a card show in your pocket? With Loop, you can instantly buy cards, packs, boxes, or into auctions with the click of a button, and do it all while chatting with some of the best personalities and the best community in the hobby. Download the Loop app now on iOS or Android. Loop, a card show in your pocket.
So the Marlins did make a move today. They did option Brian De La Cruz, AAA Jacksonville, and Tommy Nance is now part of the active roster. So I'm going to leave you guys to this. I wish Noah was here because I know what time is it? He'll go all the way until first pitch about Brian De La Cruz, but we'll leave it to you guys. Just what do you guys think about this? Another bullpen arm for Miami, but one of sneaky good hitters is going down to AAA. Overall, what are your thoughts about this? And let's start with Mr. Eli.
It was not surprising. If you guys listen to me, or if you, I'll say this. Let me put myself back on screen. So I think the only people caught off guard by this were the ones that didn't necessarily wrap their minds around what the Marlins did this offseason. So they added Avi Garcia. They added Jorge Soler. They added Joey Wendell. And they didn't really get rid of any bats. So you just look at the depth chart, and it was Soler and Avi and Jesus Sanchez as the top 3 starting outfielders. And there were times like during the offseason where we thought, hey, DLC as your 4th outfielder, that's awesome. He's like overqualified for that role. They're in great shape. But again, you need to remember they didn't get rid of anybody. So when they go into the season and everybody's actually healthy, including Brian Anderson, and they want to get Brian Anderson playing time, he has experience in the outfield. He has a much longer major league track record than DLC does. He's been functioning as the 4th outfielder. He's the 4th outfielder. That's how most of this year's been going. He's played some third base. He's played more in the corner outfield spots. And that makes DLC like the 5th outfielder. And once the roster sizes went down, the only surprise was that this didn't happen a few days ago, because I thought as soon as it went down from 28 to 26, you don't need 5 outfielders, and you need to recognize how Brian Anderson is being used on this team. So they waited a few extra days. He performed about as well as could be expected in his role, but it just was not a substantial role. And it just was not complementary with the other veteran outfielders, mainly because all of them except for Jesus Sanchez bat from the right side. They built a roster with this in mind, with DLC in mind as like the 5th guy on the depth chart. They've been fortunate that everybody's been healthy, so it's created this really weird situation, but a good problem to have. So that's the bottom line. Is he still in the organization? You're going to see him back up. I would venture a guess you see him back up within this month, before May 31st. He's going to be back up for some reason when it makes more sense for the roster's composition. At this very moment, he just did not have a substantial role to play, in my opinion, and I understand the move. Any questions?
Yeah. Anyone has thoughts about this? Before we go a little bit, here are some stats on Brian De La Cruz in 16 games, 316 average, slugging 474, an OPS of 914. So, when you bring down a hitter like that and bring in another reliever, just what are your guys' thoughts on especially that the way Brian De La Cruz has been performing? And let's go to Isaac. What are your thoughts on this?
No, like Eli said, what Eli said is basically echoes my thoughts on it. I'm not surprised. Sorry, you caught me mid-yawn. No, it was also more of a situation where they needed a fresh arm really badly for this 16-game stretch, and DLC was the one guy that it was expendable. John Burry, like I said, I don't like him in the outfield. He did play some center field this weekend or during the week against Arizona. He was in center field yesterday, actually. And, like Eli said, you have Brian Anderson who can play left and right really well, actually. So like he said, he is the 4th outfielder, and DLC is the one expendable guy that can be sent down. So it made perfect sense that Tommy Nance gets called up, he gets sent down, and I would not be surprised if even before the 16-game streak in 16 days is over, DLC might be back up.
Yeah, and everybody's with you, Dan Locked, that DLC is the better player right now, but the reality of the roster that they have, you need to keep in mind just the flexibility they have with certain players, such as DLC, whereas Avi Garcia, he's at the opposite end of the spectrum. He's got no minor league options left. He's got the biggest contract, and it's still early enough in the year that they aren't going to do anything drastic with him yet.
Yeah.
There comes a point, if this somehow continues with Avi, as bad as it's been, then they make some really uncomfortable decisions. But to this point, they're being patient, and honestly, I think that's the most appropriate move, even though it doesn't feel great at the moment. It's a lot on Avi. Things are going to get really uncomfortable for him if he doesn't have a really strong road trip.
Yeah. Before we get into this next series preview and talk about the lineups, Jeremiah, first place, any thoughts about this option between Tommy Nance and DLC?
Yeah, I think this is odd man out. Sorry, go ahead, Jeremiah.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I pretty much agree with Isaac and Eli on this one. I don't like it, though. I would have rather seen between the two, I personally would have rather seen John Birdie get sent down for a week or two, but they're both hitting the ball well. I think
John Birdie?
Yeah, if it's only going to be for a certain period of time, like, I don't know. I like DLC a little bit better in the outfield defensively, and I think he can hit the ball just as good as John Birdie, if not better, over long periods of time. You got to remember, Birdie struggled a lot last year, so he's doing good now.
John Birdie hit 2 home runs yesterday. Just want to let you know.
Well, one game.
Yeah, I know, but he's been the best, one of the best hitters on the team.
And he's been a little injury prone, also. So
he has, but you can't blame the guy for getting hit in the back of the head and getting a concussion.
How long are we talking? Like this option here? Like if it's a couple weeks, I mean, maybe Birdie. But if it's like a few months, I mean, I don't want to see Birdie go either. I just think I agree with you guys that it's the bullpen depth. It's just about bullpen depth. I like seeing De La Cruz off the bench in the late innings.
Well, I think just as much as
does Birdie even have minor league options?
He does. He is earning more money than De La Cruz is at this time. And teams are always uncomfortable sending guys down to the minors when they're ready in their arbitration years. the thing that relates these two guys is sending down DLC. It makes John Birdie the backup center fielder. It is showing a lot of faith in him being a viable center fielder. And one of the keys, the differentiator, even if you believe like DLC is the better hitter, his true talent is better, what Birdie has is his really incredible base running and how that could be used later in games. DLC is not particularly special in that regard. And Birdie is somebody that almost everybody except for Jazz, you could see him pinch running at some point in a critical situation, especially when you're talking about extra innings and the runner on second. As somebody, if he's not even in the lineup on that day, he could still make an impact in that way. So it was between those two, it was a good problem to have. But ultimately, the reason why they're in this situation is, of course, because their big money outfielders are both underperforming. So now you don't know exactly what to believe in this offense moving forward.
Yeah, and I think it was a really easy choice. If it was between John Birdie and DLC, John Birdie's been a really valuable piece for this Major League Ball club. He's already produced a 0.7 wins above replacement and very limited sample size. He's a pitch runner. He's the best base runner on the team, maybe behind Jazz. And I just think, DLC, he's got a good hit tool, and that's maybe about it. So I think Birdie, he can do it all. He can run.
Besides, and when you talk about DLC and what he can do, I mean, he's been able to play center field pretty well, to be honest with you. I mean, that's another one. He's been a late defensive replacement, but John Birdie could play the infield. Although he doesn't have a big arm in the outfield, he could get it done decently well enough where you could finish off a game with John Birdie. But it was a weird send down. And I want to ask Eli, with Floro, let's say Floro comes back, you send down Tommy Nance. Do you think that's when DLC comes back up, or not in that moment?
Well, I mean, it depends on the exact timing of it. If Nance is the corresponding move, then you don't have any
open for the Milwaukee series. For the Milwaukee series,
that's looking too far ahead. If they're fortunate and nobody gets hurt in the meantime, you need to reinforce how fortunate they've been overall. Aside from Floro, almost everybody staying healthy to this point in the season has been a big blessing. So you can't look that far ahead when managing the roster. But that's the key question, is whether they go with 14-man pitching staff or 13-man pitching staff. And that's all going to depend on how deep the starters go, who stays healthy, yada, yada, yada. But we should probably look forward to this actual immediate series right now. Sure.
Let's go look at the lineups, as we are running just a little bit less on time due to an unfortunate, I would say, accident in the beginning of the stream. But we are playing the San Diego Padres in a 4-game series. We're also seeing Nick Martinez as the starter for tonight's game versus the Padres. And does anything stand out to you in this lineup? Obviously, no Fernando Tatis. He's still rehabbing from his injury. There are a lot of great guys on this team. Jake Cronenworth is really underrated. Manny Machado, we all know about him. Jurickson Profar is having a really, decent, I would say, a little start to the season. You also have Eric Hosmer, and I would say the Marlins legend, Hall of Famer, number retired Jorge Alfaro. Also, so what do you guys see from this lineup from the Padres, and what do the Marlins have to do to get the
Eric
first?
Hosmer? Eric Hosmer has actually been pretty good this season, surprisingly. Yes. I mean, he's batting .378 with 3 homers, 17 RBIs, and 82 at bats. I mean, the guy's been just smashing the ball. And then you have on the other end, you have Manny Machado. I mean, another incredible season, 365, 5 homers, 18 RBIs. This is not any lineup that you can mess around with. Besides that, I mean, Jorge Alfaro is putting up a better season than a couple of Marlins players at the moment when it comes to offense. Jurickson Profar, as you mentioned, slow start. CJ Cronenworth, another guy with a slow start. I mean, he's only batting .207 with 2 homers and 14 RBIs. So that's another player there. Austin Nola, former Marlin as well, not getting it going too quickly here either, 217. Mm-hmm. So some guys we definitely have to look at. And then Ha-Seong Kim, who was actually having a good season, if I'm correct. Yeah, 259, just batting over that 250 mark.
Yeah, 3 home runs.
So, yeah, I mean, overall, this is a pretty scary team, but there's some guys who are having down years, so I'm not too worried. And the pitching matchup actually favors Miami here with Nick Martinez, who has not gone off to his best start. 1-2 record, 4.12 ERA. He's a guy who doesn't have a main pitch either. I think we were talking about this off stream. All 5 of his pitches, he actually balances them out pretty well. So we can get into that matchup later, but some interesting stuff on that San Diego team.
He was another big signing for the Padres coming overseas this year. But just what do you guys also see from the lineup? Just, in different positions. How are we feeling about Jorge Alfaro? Do we see a monster game from him in his first game back?
Watch.
Or for Alfaro, just pitch him high and in. You'll get him out more times than not. Nick Martinez, I didn't know much about it. Just baseball reference. I mean, he's the perfect example of what a journeyman is. He has been up and down all around the league.
He's from Miami too.
Mainly with Texas, but he's just been up and down a cajillion times.
Oh, he is? He's from
Yeah.
Miami? Oh, cool.
So this is someone that, probably, like you said, Kevin, the pitching matchup probably favors Miami. And obviously there's a big name that's, missing from this. He's recovering from a surgery. Fernando Tatis Jr., who is luckily Miami does miss him. Who knows where he'd be playing, in center or in short, but that is a big name that is missing from the San Diego Padres lineup. This is not a full-strength San Diego team, so when we get to predictions, you'll see that I favor Miami for the most part.
If Alfaro hits the cycle, I think I'm just going to knock it off.
For people that
is BA out of the lineup? I missed
tonight
it.
He is, yeah.
He is.
Yeah, let's look at the Marlins lineup. If you could put that right back up, Eli, we can talk about a little bit of how the Marlins are, if they are favored in this lineup.
It's an interesting lineup.
Anything really stand out to you guys? Obviously, we still have Jazz hitting leadoff, Aggie as a DH, Garcia really down the lineup, and also having Wendell also down.
Yeah,
I think Isaac mentioned this.
so really quick,
Soler should move down a spot.
Yeah, really quick.
I would put Jeezy at third. Yeah,
really quick. I think Jeezy should hit third, Soler fourth or sixth. But the thing that I was really curious about when Wendell did return from the hamstring soreness, whether what that would mean, who gets the boot? Because when I asked Donnie about what's wrong with him, he's out. So Miguel Rojas is in. He made it sort of seem like okay, maybe they will finally listen to us and platoon them. But no, here we are with a right-handed pitcher. Miguel Rojas gets to start at short, and it's just not the best lineup for a right-handed pitcher. It's just not. You'll sacrifice some defense at short, no doubt about it, with Wendell there. But Brian Anderson is a much better hitter against right-handed pitching than Miguel Rojas. Miguel Rojas, I think his days of starting every single day, especially against right-handed pitching, are numbered. They should be numbered. And it's very frustrating that, how much better would this lineup look with BA and Wendell and Garcia, all those guys, rather than Miguel Rojas and Henry at the bottom. So I've been outspoken about that. I think it's very frustrating that they play the numbers with Jazz and Jesus. Hey, we're not going to start them against lefties because their numbers suck, but they won't do that with Miguel Rojas, his numbers suck against righties. So they just pick and choose when they want to use the numbers. And
he actually sucks overall, but he's actually sucked overall. But I mean, it's okay.
Against everybody.
Kevin. Thank you.
Jeremiah, first place. What do you guys think about these lineups between the Marlins and the Padres? Anything stand out between either team that really has their attention?
I feel like, for all the reasons we've already listed with all the who has surplus, of depth everywhere, we're sending ball players, real ball players like De La Cruz down because we have to. I feel like there's just a logjam everywhere. Like I'm looking at this lineup right now. Obviously, we're not playing our hottest hitters. And Rojas is Mattingly's guy. He's the captain. But I feel like we're gonna know we're a playoff contender when we have Rojas as our captain, as our fifth infielder on the bench, right? And he's a good ball player. I'm looking at this like, man, we need some fire, and we don't have much firepower besides Soler and Garcia, who are not loaded right now. I'm looking at this and I'm like, who's the guy right now who's best suited to hit third? And it's Brian Anderson, in my opinion. He's the guy. Well, just for like 2 weeks, man, because this guy.
I don't disagree with you.
He's having good at bats. He's taking walks when he has to. At least in the last week, I don't have. That's just what my memory is telling me. But he's a guy who, when he's on, he's a pretty good contact hitter. He's got pop. He just hit one 445 feet. And he's athletic. He's probably the most prototypical third hitter we have right now. And Sanchez, I can see really growing into that for sure. But right now, our third hitter is on the bench.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention, you guys know how I felt about Miguel this season. I don't think he's a great guy. Let's start off by that. Miggy's a good guy. He's the captain. He's a great player, but he's just not it anymore, man. I'm sorry. I think it's time to have Joey Wendell start at shortstop every day and have BA at third and just make that your infield, because Miggy Rowe ain't it, man. When I looked at the MLB percentiles, and I was telling Eli, Isaac, everyone on here before stream, he's actually worse than Avisail Garcia on some of these percentiles, and that's not good. He's actually his batting average is worse. I think there's some other parts of his stats that are even worse than Avisail. So you look at it, it's been bad. And I'm not saying Avisail has been better than Miggy Rowe, but statistically, that's what it looks like. So you have to start Wendell as short. That guy has just been maybe one of the best acquisitions you've made probably in the past couple of years of this franchise overall. I mean, this guy has been really good when you look at it. And he's been able to hit, he hit a bomb the other day against the Nationals. I think Wendell needs to be your everyday shortstop. And then BA, who's been actually very good. I mean, as you mentioned at first place, I mean, you mentioned it, that ever since those first two series, he's actually been able to work the walks. He's been able to get it done, get some hits, just get some offense going. Besides those first two series in Anaheim and San Francisco, that he could just not get it going. So, yeah, it's time to put Miggy Rowe on the bench. I think, Isaac, you mentioned just play him against lefties. I think I wouldn't mind that. Every once in a while, you could platoon him a little bit, but Wendell needs to be there every day, and that's the guy who should be starting over Rojas. If you're trying to win and you're trying to put your best hitters out there, Rojas is not one. So I love Miggy Rowe, but it's time. I mean, he's getting up there in age as well. So
yeah, and a big point in doing this series and just looking at the different pitching. Oh wait, you guys are going to talk? Go.
I was just gonna say, didn't Peyton Henry just start against Arizona?
Yeah. So
Yes.
it should be noted that this is his first time starting back-to-back games in the majors. He didn't do it at the end of last year. He's not done it to this point this year. This is something I stressed like a week and a half ago when they had this long stretch of that off day, that Peyton Henry is going to be relied upon a lot more than he had been before. He's going to have to not suck. And last game he did have a pretty key.
He got his first hit.
Yeah, and we'll see. This is an important test for him. They need to manage Stallings' workload, and that means the backup becomes the starter for some portion of the schedule.
You don't think this has to do anything with him catching Luzardo mostly this season? Because that's what I've noticed.
Maybe.
Yeah. I wanted to mention really quick before we get into predictions. What are you guys' thoughts so far on Trevor Rogers this season? He has not been the All-Star. Just a quick thoughts.
No, it's a good question, but that's a long conversation.
Yeah.
That'll be on Fish Stripes.
Just quick. If you have quick thoughts,
my quick thought is that people can read a new article from Louis Adioweiss on fishstripes.com specifically about Trevor Rogers, how it's a mix of his stuff not playing as well as it did early last year, and also just some bad luck as well due to the small sample size. He's still, for the most part, keeping the ball in the ballpark, except for his most recent outing. Oof. But it's yet another important start for him, because we talk about Max Meyer being so obviously ready for the big leagues, and although Eliezer Hernandez is the weak link in this rotation, it's even more important to do something about that if you have two guys in the rotation that you don't fully trust. It's an important start for him coming up during this series. That's what I'll say about that.
Yeah,
I think it's the changeup. His changeup hasn't been playing up. Yeah. Last year it was an elite pitch, and this year it's, if not average, it's below average. So once he figures that out, I think he'll be fine, but he's just got to focus on his mechanics right now.
And that leaves us to prediction time, predicting the Marlins versus the San Diego Padres series. This is going to be a fun one. It's a 4-game series this time before they go to Arizona, play the Diamondbacks again. I'll start it off. For me, I don't see the Miami Marlins taking the series. You have to go up against a tough task with the starting pitchers. From the Padres, you have to go against Joe Musgrove, Sean Manaea, Yu Darvish, and Nick Martinez. I do think they take this first game, and then they'll also take the Pablo game against Sean Manaea. So I have Miami going 2 for 2, staying at 500 before going to Arizona, and my series MVP is going to be Jesus Aguilar. I think Aguilar has been really great so far. He has been he's been really hot so far this season. I think since around April 20th, I think Eli tweeted he's hitting around 320. So he's been really great. So I have Marlins going 2 for 2 in the series, and Aggie is my MVP. Isaac.
I know it was a really shit show of a series against Arizona, but like I said, I think they played better in that series than they did in the series that they swept against Washington. So, and they tend to have historically played decent baseball in San Diego out west. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and be really optimistic here. I'm gonna say they take 3 out of 4.
Wow.
I think that one game is gonna be tough. It's gonna be against Joe Musgrove.
Yeah.
In the game 4. I think Sean Manaea, he's good, but I think Nick Martinez, they should have his number. This seems like a game where they go out for a lot of runs. But yeah, I say they take 3 out of 4, and for MVP, I'll go. The safe bet would be Jazz at this point. He really has been a safe bet, so I'll go with Jazz Chisholm again.
Hold on, let me find the clip. Yes.
MVP, best player in the league.
There you go.
There we go.
Eli.
It's a new one added to our soundboard. Yeah, I'll go quick. I was waffling between the series split and actually Isaac winning 3 out of 4, and I settled on a series split. So going 2 for 2 in this one with the Padres. I think they'll be all right. Certainly better than they were the previous series. My MVP, go with Jorge Soler. I know he's been picked a bunch of times this year and has not come through, but I feel he's certainly compared to Avi, and I think compared to a lot of the other guys on this team, he doesn't need a whole lot to go right to make a big impact just because of the power that he has and his ability to handle a lot of different types of pitching when he's right. I think he'll have a very good series in this one.
You took my guy.
Kevin, we're gonna have Jeremiah go. That's what you're gonna get for doing the ending the stream early. You're gonna be laughing at predictions. So we'll have Jeremiah go.
Yeah, I think Miami is gonna have a bounce back series. I think it's a really important series for them. Right now, hovering around 500. I think they take 3 out of 4. I think that Trevor Rogers bounces back, but they drop the series the game against Manaea on Saturday.
Oh.
And your MVP?
My MVP, I'm going to go with Joey Wendell. I think he has a big series.
Go on. First place?
All right, I'm going to go with we're going to take 3 out of 4. Rogers is going to come back strong, but still lose that game for reasons unbeknownst to me. Today, I think we also see a Jorge Alfaro home run with 2 outs in the second inning off of the brick building in left field. And my MVP for the series is Avisail Garcia.
Whoa.
Whoa.
I hope somebody talks to him and is like, hey, you got all that money, do something with it. And he'll, I don't know if that's going to happen, but why not? That's my pick. No one else is going to pick him.
Hey, man, whatever you're smoking, I'll have some too.
Why not?
And he plays center field at one point this weekend.
I don't think so. No. Or
Maybe.
It's really good stuff, man. I'll share it with you.
Don't do drugs, kids.
Kev.
So I'm gonna go here with Eli. They'll split. They win, and I'm gonna do what Daniel did. They win tonight. Nick Martinez. They lose the Sandy start. And they win the Pablo start, and then they lose Trevor. I think that's how it'll go. San Diego's pitching besides tonight. I think it's favored through almost every other game. Besides the Trevor start, the Pablo start. I think Pablo favors against Manaea. It's the only reason why I'll do that. And Eli said my series MVP. Jorge Soler power. Let's go. I think he'll have a bounce back series. I think if I'm correct, San Diego's a pretty hitter friendly park. So hopefully that helps Soler and he can hit a couple bombs, get it going. And I like first place fish prediction out here. Hopefully Avi gets it going.
Well,
Lord,
Let's hope.
we have 4 minutes left to the game, so we'll end it here. Everyone go get their popcorn, put on the game, and also watch. Yeah, Isaac?
A better prediction, really quick. Who starts on Monday night in Arizona?
That's Eliezer's spot.
Eliezer Hernandez.
Let's go Max. Why not?
Max is scheduled for what, Saturday, correct?
Max is scheduled for tomorrow, for Friday.
For Friday, so he doesn't start. They're not going to push him back 3 nights. So.
He'll print Miami for them. What?
Oh my God! All right.
Also, quick note: Angel Hernandez is behind the plate tonight. So
unreal.
Oh man, Luzardo's going to be.
We might be in for a rough one.
I'll say, if Max Meyer would have been scratched either yesterday or today, I think he would have made the start on Monday. But I think it'll be in Milwaukee. I think Alex mentioned that on the Spaces yesterday, if I'm correct. I think he did. That it'll be probably Milwaukee series where we will see him, because I think when you look at it as well, the traveling is easier. It's just a quick drive down to Miami, not go all the way to Arizona where there's a time difference and all of that stuff.
We have double Daniel coming.
Yeah, I don't know why my computer just died. I don't know what
My
happened
computer
there.
just died. Oh,
Yeah, I'm on my phone, so I had to come back to end the stream. So I'm guessing now will be the perfect time. Yeah, hopefully Max Meyer does pitch maybe against Milwaukee for the 25th anniversary. But that does it for everybody here. I'm Daniel, for Kevin, for Eli, for Isaac, for Jeremiah, for First Place Fish. We want to thank him again for coming on. Dealing with the slow start in the beginning, but we got through that. And remember, it's Fish Traps Live presented by Loop. And do remember
Why
this.
bother with empty shelves at retail stores, waiting 3 days for a break to fill, or driving across town to find out your hobby shop closed at 4 when you always have a card show in your pocket? With Loop, you can instantly buy cards, packs, boxes, or into auctions with the click of a button, and do it all while chatting with some of the best personalities and the best community in the hobby. Download the Loop app now on iOS or Android. Loop, a card show